Hey guys, welcome back. Better Than a Let's Play, episode 27. This is season 2, the Moon Quest edition. I'm Enigmius, and today we are just all up in the Mekanism. This is our hydrogen chloride plant, which is going to be an integral part of our ore processing system. This is the kind of stuff that I just love to build because it's essentially a multi-block structure when you get right down to it, only it doesn't act as though it's one single unit, and you can kind of be creative and build it the way you want, which is so much fun. Before we get looking at this, however, we have to get looking at the first part of this whole process, which is the Desalination Plant, all the way up there. All the way up there. Fortunately, oops, we can get up there fairly quickly, except it usually means overshooting it. So we can take a look at this. You'll see that there's 4 solar panels on top of this. Each one has its own set of 4 little miniature panels. So there's a solar panel in each corner. I'm kind of a victim of, I think, a rendering hiccup here, because at no time does it ever properly render the panels. These things are actually basically covering off the entire roof. Like, I can stand right here and walk around in between them, and these are actually all supposed to be parts of the solar panel. These are actually part of the Desalination Plant. You can make these solar panels, advanced solar generators. Let's actually take a quick look at them. They're a little bit involved. Advanced solar generator. This part doesn't look that bad. You think, oh, 3 iron ingots, a couple of enriched alloy, we've seen those before, and 4 solar generators. So then you look at the solar generators, this is where it starts to get a little more enriched alloy, iron, some osmium dust, which is not bad. Even if you aren't playing with thermal expansion, you can put these in a Mekanism crusher to make the pulverized osmium dust, whatever. Energy tablet, nothing crazy. There's nothing crazy there. And then the solar panels, and then the solar panels are like this. So each individual component is nothing crazy. But when you stop and think, okay, so for the recipe for the tier up, I need 3 of these solar panels, right? For these guys, I need 3 solar panels to make one of these solar generators. And then I need 4 solar generators to make 1 advanced solar generator, and I need 4 advanced solar generators in order to complete the Salination Plant. So it's one of those things that starts off small, and then all of a sudden we start going exponential all over the damn place. Got it done. And then there's this, the Desalination Plant itself, and I mentioned in the last episode that this is kind of like a Tinker's Construct smeltery. It is a proper multi-block structure. It's got valves down one side. Actually, we can come down here. You can see where these water pipes are connecting. These are the Mekanism mechanical pipes, and I used these specifically because I didn't want to use pipes from another mod. I wanted to keep this so that everything is accessible to you as best I could, except for the Aqueous Accumulators. I already mentioned that. You get the idea. Mechanical pipes are from Mekanism, so the ones that I'm using here are ones that you would have access to in the regular Moon Quest pack, and it's connected. It's just all valves down the center 2 columns in this side here, so that I can get as much water into this thing as possible in the shortest amount of time. And then down over here we've got this one pipe that's set to pull the mechanical pipe. Do I have the thing? No, I don't have the tool. There's a configurator tool. It's like a rechargeable screwdriver. This guy, the configurator. It's not expensive to make, and it's pretty cost effective to keep charged. You don't use a lot of charge for various different things, but you can make that so that you can right click or shift right click on where a pipe connects to a structure like this and set it so that it pulls things automatically. And every once in a while you'll see yellowish kind of liquid, there it is, flowing through the pipes all the way down. That's the brine that we're converting into hydrogen chloride. That's the sole purpose of this thing, is to convert water into brine as much as possible and then ship it off down to the hydrogen chloride plant. Now, these blocks, these salination blocks, this is up until I started working on this specific part of the project, I had an abundance, and I mean an abundance, of copper. Then I got to these guys. Dynamic tank, which by itself uses cobblestone and forced steel to make 8. So they aren't super cheap, but they aren't super expensive. And then each salination block is 1 dynamic tank and 8 copper ingots. So if you take the 8 dynamic tanks you get from this recipe here and turn them into 8 salination blocks, it's going to take a full stack of copper. I have many stacks of copper tied up in this salination plant, which was fine because, like I say, up until I started working on this project, I had this stockpile of copper that I didn't use because all the wires aluminum, all the machines want osmium instead of copper. I wasn't using copper at all, so I had this stockpile, and this pretty much wiped out most of it. I made sure to keep a little just in case, but it wasn't cheap. The valves are not necessarily all that bad. Dynamic valve, same as the dynamic tank, except a control circuit instead of a piece of cobblestone. More control circuits, steel casing, which is osmium and steel. Everything is like something in the middle and then forced steel around it. That makes the salination valve. You need at least 2. 1 to pump water in and 1 to pump brine out. But as you saw on the other side, I made a lot more than that. And then the last piece, it's an extremely important piece, is, oh, we overshot again. That was my bad. I got a little excited, always with the railgun and the shooting. This guy here is the Desalination Controller, and this is sort of like the smeltery controller for a Tinker's Construct smeltery. You can see here, once you first assemble everything, you put the controller in place, and then you have to come in here and you click Desalination Plant, and then it will check and make sure that everything is right, and if you assembled it properly, then it'll say it's structured, it'll tell you the height, sum multiplier, maximum temperature. The sun has just come up on Mars, that's why the temperature is increasing, and we're not really producing a whole lot of brine. But you can see we're barely breaking even. With all that water that we're pumping into this guy, we're basically running the pipes at their maximum carrying capacity at this point, I think. So we're not running out of water, but we're not exactly keeping it full all the time either. And then any brine that we produce would be stored here if we didn't have pipes connected to it that could carry it somewhere else. So that's, you know, it's pretty straightforward as multi-block structures go, but to build one this size is bloody expensive. You don't have to build it anywhere this large, but you know how I do. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. These are all the aqueous accumulators that I'm using to provide water to this system. And you can see we're basically, even the pipes aren't full here. So that's actually a good thing. That means that we're doing a fairly decent job of getting water into the plant with the resources we've got. If these were all full, it would mean we had too many aqueous accumulators, basically. That's it. And like I said, this is the one area where I kind of broke down and said, no, I'm not doing it with what you get in the MoonQuest mods. You could do this with Buildcraft pumps. You could do this with Mekanism electric pumps. Same thing, infinite water source, plant them on top, connect pipes, connect them to the desalination plant. No big deal. The only difference is you would have to come up with a way of getting power to your pumps, which is not necessarily complicated. We connect power to things, we generate power all the time. This, for me, was just, it kind of looks neat like this when it's not cluttered and it's just all these pipes connecting water to that guy. So that takes us down here. Okay, we've got the brine being produced, transferred down these pipes, or this pipe, I guess it's just one pipe, all the way down here, and into our good friend the electrolytic separator. Yeah, it's good for more than just hydrogen and oxygen, which is kind of neat. Powering this whole thing, of course, this might look familiar to you, it's a spin on our original design for heat generators. We've got a bunch of heat generators. We jumped too high, always too high. You can see kind of down there in the back, I'm trying to get a perch there. There's a heat generator down there. You can see they're all down there. And you can see I've got about 4 layers, 4 rows of heat generators going all the way back there. And I can't find a safe place to stand. So there's 12 heat generators in there. The one thing that I noticed is that setting it up this way with the wires coming out where they are is that if I wasn't quick in building the structure as I was placing the lava and moving back out this way, is the wires would catch on fire. But now that everything's properly encased and the wires aren't exposed to the lava, they're holding up fairly well. I haven't had to go in and replace them, which is good because that would be a serious pain in the ass. And this is all providing power just to get us started with the factory. We're going to be doing other crazy things with power. We're not restricting ourselves just to this, but I needed something that was stable and reliable and ideally different from what we were using in there to keep our oxygen setup going. So that's why we used the heat generators. And then we have this power cable extending out from the heat generator room and down. First of all, it goes underneath these machines here. You can see power cable this way, and then it also goes down and underground and underneath the electrolytic separators. This is the sealable heavy aluminum wire. It's the same block that you would use if you wanted to pass a heavy aluminum wire through a wall between a room that is oxygen sealed and one that isn't. It's basically just a heavy aluminum wire in a solid block instead of just a strip of wire. And I used it because it looks nicer that way going through than just a wire going into the ground and then underneath. So the process for the hydrogen chloride plant is very simple. The brine that we make up there comes down here and it goes into these electrolytic separators where it's separated into hydrogen, the brine, chlorine, that's what it is. It gets separated into hydrogen and chlorine. So instead of hydrogen and oxygen, we're getting hydrogen and chlorine. And it's basically, the setup that I've got is the brine comes in the top, and then we've got, pretty sure this is the chlorine coming out one side, and the hydrogen coming out the other. And that's it. This whole row, that's exactly what it's doing. These guys are all faced a specific direction so that we can line up the pressurized pipes, pressurized tubes, to carry the gas out to the next step. Now, pressurized tubes are fairly inexpensive to make, if we want to call it that. They're used specifically for carrying gas. And unlike the oxygen pipe that we use in our oxygen setup, they'll carry any kind of gas. So pressurized tube is glass and steel makes 8. So always with the steel, so much steel. This is why we're doing this setup, is so that when we go mining for iron, we can get as much iron and thus steel out of our efforts as we possibly can. Pressurized tube, and you can see we've got a lot of pressurized tube. All these things with the little triangle and the exclamation mark, that's pressurized tubing. So you can see we've got a lot going through here. So we've got hydrogen coming out one side and chlorine coming out the other. And then what we need to do is we need to send them up here into chemical infusers. Chemical infusers. This is another Mekanism machine. Again, not super expensive to make. Chemical infuser. Basic control circuit, right? That's the enriched alloy into redstone. More enriched alloy, a dynamic tank. We've seen plenty of those for the Desalination Plant. And then these gas tanks, which is pulverized iron and osmium ingots, makes a gas tank, which is also what I'm using to store all of the gas in these little black and gray nodules here. These are all the gas tanks, exactly like the ones that you use in the recipe to make the chemical infusers. And you see, we're basically taking the brine, splitting it into hydrogen and chlorine, and then recombining them as hydrogen chloride. I'm not a chemist, so I can't tell you exactly how that whole process works, but that's what we're doing. We're taking water, converting it to brine, converting the brine, splitting it basically into hydrogen and chlorine, and then taking the hydrogen and chlorine and recombining it in the chemical infusers to make hydrogen chloride. Got it? Because I get confused just trying to explain it. And then each step along the way, I've got all of these gas tanks that are set to store. See, we've actually got some. We've got some here set to store all these materials because we're still in the process, obviously, of building this ore processing factory. And I would like this machine to be running, give ourselves a surplus of hydrogen chloride to get started, and then we don't have to worry about things being held up when we're trying to test the next stages of production because we don't have any hydrogen chloride. Now, one of the things that I had to do was install a dimensional anchor, which is right there. There's our dimensional anchor, which is included with the mod pack. You can make it dimensional anchors. And you can set how many chunks you want to keep loaded. This is basically a chunk loader, that's all it is. And I've got a 3x3 area because I want to keep this area here and the salination plant loaded even when I'm not on Mars, because the Mars day and night cycle progresses when you're on the overworld. And what I don't want to happen is every time I come to Mars it's nighttime, all this stuff loads, nothing happens because that guy isn't producing heat from the solar power to make brine, and then I leave before day comes around and I never actually get settled into a cycle where we're producing brine. So I'm keeping it chunk loaded, and that way I don't have to worry. We're slowly starting to accumulate all of these gases. I've also got this set up, if you're wondering, we've got the oh, you bastard spider. You like dropped out of nowhere right on my head. That's very not nice. There's another one. It's the attack of the anger spiders. There we go. He's gone. And once again, we're way too high up in the air. Alright, so these tanks up top start here and go down all the way around here. These are all storage for hydrogen chloride. That's the primary output. You can see we've got hydrogen chloride. I hear a zombie. Go away. Down here, we've got storage for chlorine. If we had any surplus chlorine, which it appears that we do, it would go in here. So once these tanks are full, the system can still continue splitting brine into chlorine and hydrogen because we've got storage for both. And then down here, we come underneath. Here we are storing hydrogen. So it's basically, first of all, like I say, I love the looks of it with all the little tanks hanging off it and all the pipes with the things and this stuff. I just think it looks exactly what I want this whole kind of setup to look. It looks busy as hell, but it's orderly and it's got that tech look to it, so I'm very happy. But at the same time, it's functional. It's highly, highly functional. And when we get around to the actual processing of the ores, it should look like this thing is going to be probably out to there somewhere like this. So nothing particularly complicated, except that I made it look complicated by the way I ran all the piping and the power and put on the tanks. Fun stuff. Now, that's just one step in this entire process. The next thing I took was a chemical injection chamber. Where is it? Chemical oxidizer. Chemical injection chamber, and turned it into an elite factory for injecting. So, let's take a look at this. Factory. And we want this one for injecting. We've got the elite factory, which required that we make an advanced factory, 4 control circuits, and the enriched alloy. We know all that stuff. And the atomic core, which is diamonds, osmium dust, obsidian dust, which you can get from putting obsidian in a crusher. It's the same as grinding down any other kind of ore. And the enriched alloy. So a little bit pricey in terms of the diamond, but not bad. And then we take that with our advanced factory that we made to make the elite. The advanced factory was enriched alloy, basic circuits, and diamond dust. Diamond dust is you put a diamond in a crusher, you get 1 diamond dust. So 2 diamonds into this guy makes the advanced factory from the basic factory that we made out of a chemical injection chamber with a couple of gold dust, some control circuits, and enriched alloy, with a chemical injection chamber that was made out of a purification chamber with 2 steel casings, control circuits, and 4 of the atomic cores that we just looked at, the ones with the osmium dust, the obsidian dust, and the diamond. purification chamber was made out of 2 atomic cores, 4 control circuits, 2 enriched alloys, and an enrichment chamber. The enrichment chamber was made out of a steel casing with control circuit, redstone, enriched alloy. Quite a few steps to get up there, but again, if I go through it quickly, it's not gonna sink in, and that's okay. And it might seem intimidating, but it's just like so many other different tiered recipes, is you just have to work through each tier step by step. In this case with the factories, you can trace your way down. You can start actually with the basic factory, find out what you need to make that. You need a chemical injection chamber, purification chamber, enrichment chamber. Work your way down, and then just keep progressing up the tiers until you get what you want. In this case, the elite factory. And the reason why I wanted this is for volume, without having to run a whole bunch of extra cables and a whole bunch of extra pipes. We could theoretically, once we get this set up for iron, set up a similar thing for copper, tin, silver, gold, whatever we want, to be able to convert into many ingots, many more ingots than just by running it through a simple dust creator to double the ores. Here we can do 7 stacks of whatever we want at a time in this factory. So it's going to help keep things compact, because as I said, by the time we're done all of the steps, we're going to be like way out there somewhere. It's a thing for sure. So we've still got a lot to do. We've got a lot of machines to make. We've got a lot of things to hook up. Oh, it's a babby zombie playing around on... Oh no, he's on the other side. Okay. Good. It looked like it was a babby zombie playing around on our machine. So we're just getting started, but this salination plant in of itself was quite an undertaking, because I've got 12 electrolytic separators, 12 chemical infusers, and then all the pressurized pipes, tanks, to keep it moving. Who could ask for anything more? Look at the brine is starting to flow down now because daytime has come on Mars. It's actually almost noon. It's almost lunchtime. Time to grab a Mars sandwich and plan our next steps. So if you want to be notified when I add the next video featuring those steps, as always, you can subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter and Google+. Links for both of those in the information section below the video. Please, by all means, leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.